Welcome back. I'm TechRadar's Senior Computing Editor, Matt Hansen.
And I am TechRadar's video producer, Matt Phillips. And once again, starting all these videos this way lately, but thank you so much for the support on these videos. Me and Matt did best gaming laptops, top 5 gaming laptops just a couple of weeks ago, and it did so well for us that we thought we'd come on and chat PC games for you this time round. What are you going to be playing on your gaming laptop? That's what we're going to find out today. If you want to leave a comment down below and let us know what top 5 you want us to go through next. Maybe you want, I don't know, best cheap smartphones, wink wink, nudge nudge, that's on its way next week. Let us know in the comments down below what kind of tech categories you want us to cover. I'm in there, I'm listening, I will cover the stuff that you want us to. If you like this video and you find value in it or any of our previous videos, then please do drop a like, it helps us out loads, and subscribe to us here on YouTube so you get the best experience, because in the YouTube description, we have many links that will help you out today. So first of all, the list of best PC games is much longer on TechRadar.com, so that'll be the first link in the description. So if we don't talk about a PC game that suits you, then maybe you can head to that link and find one that does. Also, links in the description to be able to buy all of these games, and those links update automatically to find you the best current deal in your area. Very clever indeed. So they're worth checking out. You might be able to get yourself a bargain. But with the rigmarole out of the way, Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, cheers. Yeah, I managed to get myself a bit sunburned the other day, so you were quite pink in our last video.
I was gonna say, maybe I'll do some color grading and tone you down. That's what I had to do in the last one.
Yeah.
So best PC games. We're talking about this as well today because we're at the tail end of PC Gaming Week on TechRadar. So if you want, head to TechRadar.com. You'll find loads of amazing PC gaming articles that have been coming out all week long. Fantastic stuff. But Matt, let's just jump straight into it. We're talking about the top 5 best PC games we reckon that you can play right now. And coming in at number 5, a relatively older game at this point, Monster Hunter World. So tell us a little bit about this one, Matt.
Yeah, so this is a collaborative list. So a lot of us on team are big PC gamers, and so we kind of like put together this list. We didn't go for like the best PC games of all time because you're going to have Half-Life and you're going to have Half-Life 2 and Doom just at the top and never moving. So this is more kind of like slightly more recent, even though some of them, as you say, have been around for a few years now.
Yeah.
So this is a game I haven't actually played yet, but a few of my colleagues have really made a strong case for this to be in at number 5, which is Monster Hunter World, which I've heard that it's got like a big fan base. You know, it's kind of like the hunting and tracking down monsters seems to be really good fun. But what we like about it is the fact that it's a really big game. It's been really well supported by Capcom, the developers. So there's a lot of free DLC, which is really nice to see. Actually, I think that even when you finish a game, the developers continue to provide new content for it, new challenges, and it's got a really addictive gameplay loop, which just keeps bringing people back into the game, and you want to keep on pushing forward. So when I have more time, I definitely want to give this a try, actually, because the people who've played it, they absolutely love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think Monster Hunter is one of those franchises that had a really hardcore fan base, but didn't really break into the mainstream until Monster Hunter World, right? And I remember when that game came out, everybody was playing it. Massive co-op sort of element to it, you jumping in with your mates and hunting down these incredible monsters that might take you hours at a time to sort of track and hunt and you know, defeat in the end. And it's all about that grind of sort of upgrading your gear, hunting down specific monsters to get specific items to upgrade your gear, and kind of that loop of helping out your buddies upgrade. And what more do you want? Sort of that.
Yeah, I could definitely see the appeal of that. It does seem really good. Yeah, and it's fun. Which some games these days, they kind of forget the basic principle of being a game is to have fun, you know. And it just seems like it's a really good sort of kind of old school feeling, you know.
Absolutely.
Experience.
And you know, talking about games being fun, that brings us quite nicely onto our number 4 pick, because. And there could be definitely an argument to be made that this game is not fun. But our number 4 pick at the moment is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Again, a game that came out just a few weeks ago, and you reviewed it for us on site, Matt. So tell us a little bit about Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, we did a stream of it, and it's funny because it's an awesome game in a lot of respects. The technology behind it, the fact that the studio have pulled in data from Bing Maps and recreated the entire world, and the graphics, you know, when you're flying up above, it can be breathtaking. It can
Yeah.
be really breathtaking. And it's really exciting. I think it's the first game which has really felt like a next-gen game. It's just the ambition, the technology behind it is really exciting. But is it fun? It's a simulator first and foremost, so
Yeah.
it's incredibly technical. And if you saw me playing it on the stream, it's not always easy. Landing in particular is very difficult. So taking off and landing, it's incredibly stressful. However, once you're up above the clouds and things are going well, it's really satisfying. The more you play it, the more you start learning how to play it. And so you feel like you're progressing. And even if you don't get a high score or anything like that, there are some parts of the game where there's challenges you can do and it'll give you a score. And, there's worldwide leaderboards. But it's very peaceful, very zen-like, very relaxing in a lot of ways, unless you're trying to land and you're rubbish at it, and then it goes back to being stressful. But it's just a really excellent experience, and it's just an exciting glimpse of the future of games as well. So I think it's a really... It's not for everyone, but it's a worthy entrance into this best PC games list, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I think one of the really interesting things that struck me about the game is how it's caught the zeitgeist in these past few weeks that it's been out. And, there are people I've seen on Twitter who are... Because the game also includes, like you say, it uses big maps to sort of map the world, but it also includes live weather. And people are flying over hurricanes that are going on at the moment in the world and taking these incredible screenshots. And it kind of does... It's more than a game, right? It is a simulator, but it is... I don't know. Like you say, it's really exciting for the future of games. This thing is possible. Like, you couldn't have imagined it 10 years ago. But here we are, and it is more than a game, and it's a fantastic experience. And, of course, it is coming to Xbox Game Pass. So for a relatively low cost, you could jump into this game and try it out and see if it's for you, and then sort of invest then in the better PC version and peripherals and all these kind of crazy flight sticks and stuff you can get to make it even more immersive. But that brings us then on to number 3, in a game that I know relatively little about, actually, Control. Obviously, this game came out last year and there was a lot of fanfare around it. But Matt, tell us a little bit about Control.
Yeah, Control is by Remedy Entertainment, so they were behind like the Max Payne games and Alan Wake games. They always do quite cool settings, and the setting of Control is really interesting. You're in this sort of like FBI kind of like building. It's called the Oldest House, and the setting alone is almost like a character itself. It's a very weird building. Not everything is what it seems. But most importantly, it's really fun. It's a real graphical showcase on PC because it's got ray tracing effects. If you've got one of Nvidia's RTX graphics cards, this is the game you kind of want to play because it really sort of like shows what this technology can do. And so with ray tracing, that means that there's some really advanced and realistic lighting effects, and there's a lot of physics when things explode, and it's just, and firefights when things are flying off the walls as bullets sort of like hit certain desks and pillars and stuff like that, and it all just makes it really immersive. But you also play a character with certain supernatural abilities which make you feel very powerful, but without it being too easy. There's always a challenge. So it's a game I haven't completed yet because real life keeps on getting in the way. But I'm just desperate to get back into it and play some more, because what I've played so far I've really loved, and everyone who's played it has really enjoyed it, and that's why it's at number 3. And I think there's some new DLC coming out as well, which is free.
I think so. I'm not sure if it's free or not, but yeah, tying into Alan Wake, which you previously mentioned, I think has been sort of the rumor and teased a lot. So exciting stuff to know that there's more content out there. So maybe this is the perfect time to jump into Control for some people. But then that brings us on to number 2 in a sort of very well-known game in the mainstream, Dark Souls 3. Matt, tell us a little bit about Dark Souls, why it deserves to be on this list.
Dark Souls is from Software,
Yes,
and
indeed.
they're a very well respected developer, I think, especially with their work on PlayStation. And Dark Souls, along with Demon Souls and Bloodborne, they're all known to be very difficult games, but not in an unfair way, in a sort of challenging way, which really sort of puts you at your kind of pushes your limits, and you get better and you keep on coming back to it, which I think is a really difficult balance to achieve in a game, because it has to remain fun whilst you're punishing the player.
Yeah.
If you keep on dying, if you can't get further, and you're not having fun, you're going to give up. But Dark Souls 3 and the rest of the games really seem to avoid that problem. So it's got a really sort of like dark gothic world, which is quite unique, even though there's obviously takes inspiration from medieval and other sort of like time periods, but and fantasy tropes, but it sort of does its own thing, and it does it very well. And like most of the games on the list, it's also quite cheap these days, so it's well worth kind of picking up, and if you really want to challenge yourself. But you've played some of Dark Souls.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, the only one I've actually finished, the only From Software game I've finished is Bloodborne. But I have touched them all, I think, at this point. I think Dark Souls 3 was really, these games have always been about substance over style, right? They've never been the prettiest games, but Dark Souls 3, especially on PC, really did take that leap into sort of, looking beautiful, as well as kind of being that hardcore gameplay that you're used to and expecting from a From Software game. But yeah, it's certainly challenging. There's that argument again of whether or not it's fun or not, and for some people it certainly won't be, but it is satisfying, right? Like, you can sort of run up against the same boss over and over and over again, and the whole point of the game is to do these sections of game over and over and over again, so that you learn these patterns, so that you get better and quicker and more efficient at taking down these bad guys, and then progress through the game. And it's that satisfying game loop that's really going to hook you into Dark Souls. But talking about huge games where you swing swords at monsters, segue, that was terrible. But we're coming on to the number one game right now, and it's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Again, a bit of an older game, but a game that took the mainstream gaming audience by storm when it came out. So Matt, tell us a little bit about The Witcher and why it deserves to be in the number one PC gaming spot.
Yeah, like you say, this is a bit of an older game, but it's one which I still think about a lot, and it really is one of my favourite games of all time. Like a lot of people, I didn't play the first Witcher. I did play Witcher 2, which I liked, and I appreciated quite a few things about it, but it didn't really grab me.
Sure.
So it's funny when The Witcher 3 came out that it really had such a huge impact, even on people who hadn't really played some of the earlier installments. But it's just such a great game. Graphically, it looks stunning. It still holds up, and I think there are plenty of mods you can have on PC now to sort of, if you want to make it look even better. But even the vanilla version just still looks really good. The size of the world, the atmosphere, the music, the voice acting, I think is in parts brilliant. And the storyline can sometimes meander, but some of those side quests stick with you. So basically you play as the Witcher, who is a sort of a mercenary who goes around helping people with their monster problems. So like Monster Hunter, you're tracking them down.
Yeah. And
a lot of them are based on sort of Eastern European folklore. So there's some really inventive and quite beautiful mini stories, and you can ride into a town on your horse, go to the nearest message board and just pick up, little tiny stories, snippets of stories, and go investigate. Whilst there's also this much bigger story about saving the world from an oncoming wild hunt. But also it's got probably one of my favourite games of all time as a game within game, which is Gwent, which is this card game. And I spent hundreds of hours playing that game, and it does get a bit funny where you're sort of like, you're playing this game where everyone's talking about the imminent end of the world, and you're like, well, I'm just going to hang out in a tavern and play cards for a bit. But it's the scope of the game is huge, and that has meant that even though I really enjoyed my time with it, the thought of going back to it kind of is a bit daunting to play it all over again. It hasn't got the greatest combat in the world. It's a bit clunky in that respect. However, there are mods you can do to improve that. And I think if you go in thinking this is just a button mashing game where I'm just going to swing my sword and kill the monster, you're not going to enjoy yourself, because what you have to do is you have to investigate the monsters, find their weaknesses, and then play to that. So sometimes that means mixing certain potions, taking that, covering your sword in certain oils. So it is really it's a game which is going to take a lot of your time.
Yeah, so for me, The Witcher was a real surprise, right? And I think you touched on it perfectly there. It's the attention to detail in the world that will grab you, you know? In a lot of these open world games, you can feel like you're running around doing pointless side quests, like collecting flowers for Dave or whatever, and you don't care. But The Witcher really makes you care about these little stories that are going on and does them in really unique and inventive and entertaining ways, right? Like drawing on its sort of Eastern European folklore, like you mentioned. It's a unique way of telling the story, right? It's not a typical monster hunting story. There's a lot to it, and I think a lot of people recently kind of newly have been introduced to this game through the Netflix series with Henry Cavill, right? And there was kind of a rebirth of interest in this game, and if you haven't played it by now, come on, you gotta go play it.
You can get it for about $10 now. Exactly. And if you think about like the amount of hours worth of entertainment you're getting from it, which will be, you know, especially if you get into Gwent, could be hundreds of hours.
And it's funny that you mentioned Gwent, because I was the same way, right? Like when I started the game and it introduces you to Gwent in that like first tavern you end up in, I was like, oh, like come on, let's not do this. I'm here to hunt monsters. And then 10 hours later, I'm like chasing down people for Gwent matches so I can win their cards off of them and build a better deck. And and Gwent's become, you know, its own standalone thing now, and it's got this huge audience and fan base to it. And it's that kind of thing, right? Like any other open world game would introduce a mini game like that and it would be naff and not well enough thought out. But Gwent is this incredibly well thought out thing that makes sense in the world and has people playing it, like you say, for hundreds of hours, regardless of the base game.
Yes, I mean, if the people at Ubisoft could maybe take a year off churning out Assassin's Creed and play that, and then see how you can fill a open world with entertaining and unique side quests and in-game mechanics which actually are fun.
Wow, big spicy takes there at the end.
Sorry, Ubisoft.
Fantastic stuff. All right, Matt, thanks so much for jumping on with me. One thing we should probably mention just before we close out here, actually, is that Black Friday and Cyber Monday are just around the corner. So, where is the best place, in your opinion, to keep an eye out for deals on PC games?
Well, definitely, like you said earlier, we've got a price comparison site, so price comparison tool. So on all of our reviews and our best ofs, we'll have all the deals for the games underneath, and that kind of combines things from different websites. For PC games, Steam is quite a good one. Yeah. Some games aren't on Steam; they're Epic Game Store exclusives, but they should have some pretty good deals, I think. Amazon occasionally sell games. It's a funny one, really. When it comes to Black Friday, I'm guessing it's more like the hardware and the peripheral.
For sure.
Which get a big discounts, but I'd always keep an eye on like Steam and just our site, and we'll sort of list, especially some of the new ones. Like I fully expect some of those older games to drop off. I mean, we've got Cyberpunk 2077. I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully that will make its way onto the list.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of maybe Black Friday, Cyber Monday, keep an eye out for the equipment to make these games even better.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see a few nice price cuts as well.
I'm sure we will, and on TechRadar.com we'll be keeping all of you up to date with those deals as we find them and send them live. Fantastic stuff. Well, thanks for joining me, Matt. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. No, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And remember, if you enjoyed the video, found value in it, please do leave a like. It helps out loads. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And finally, head over to TechRadar.com for all the latest tech news and gaming reviews.